In this episode, we discuss Highlanders. 6 match days in and 6 draws in a row. Why are Bosso struggling to convert their opportunities into wins? We also talk about the CAF African Schools Football Championships hosted here in Zimbabwe. Esrom Nyandoro and Dlamini join us on set and they tell us all the benefits that these kids are getting, how this should improve African football, and what some of the prospects are going into the future. We're also joined by Winston and Nyanhete, who is the head coach of the Zimbabwe Karate Federation, and his hopes and aspirations as he goes to the Region 5 Youth Karate Games along with his team, and how he hopes to grow Zimbabwean karate. All this and more in this episode.
Fanzone, united by the game, powered by Moore's World of Sport.
Welcome to the Fanzone Podcast, your favorite Zimbabwean sports podcast, talking about all the sporting activities happening in and around and involving Zimbabwe. My name is Sips, and what a weekend of Easter weekend fixtures we had. Caps United record their first loss of the season as they still struggle to beat Ngezi Platinum Stars, while Triangle United record their first win of the season. Joining us today, it's a welcome back to Star FM sportscaster Simba Chiminya. How are you doing today, Simba?
I'm good, Sips. How are you? Nice to be back on the show.
Yes, nice to be back on the show. It's a big show today. It's packed. We have got CAF African Schools Championship, Football Championship coming in today on representatives. So it's welcome to Amanda Dlamini, former South African footballer player. So, wow, Amanda, it's great to have you in the studio. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Sips. Thanks you for having me.
Yes, you've been watching lots of youth football. How's it been so far?
It's been great. I think this is probably the biggest youth platform in terms of developing young boys under 15 and young girls. I think so far we've had about 3 million kids participating in this platform, and I think this is where we want to see the youngest talents, and I'm super excited to be involved. I wish I had the same opportunities back then, but it's been lovely to see just all the teams preparing for this, because this almost looks like an AFCON.
Yeah.
So to see the young ones coming out and representing their countries, it's super exciting.
Yeah, more from Amanda later on as well. And it's also welcome to Esrom Nyandoro, former Warriors, who's also a CAF representative for this tournament. So Esrom, thank you for coming in today as well.
Thank you, Sips, for having me. It was absolute and pleasure to be here, and of course, home is home. I'm home.
Home is home. It's been busy over the past couple of days, handshakes, photos, representing. How's that been?
Indeed, I think also putting up a smile. I think people are friendly. Of course, we as Zimbabweans, we are friendly people. I think the tournament has been absolutely amazing. I think Amanda said something in terms of he wish that he was in that a stage of these youngsters, But I must say the tournament has been good. The organizations, the fields. I think the boys and girls are playing a good football because of the fields. The fields are top notch.
Well, yes, more on this CAF African Championship of football. Simba, we had match day 5 and 6 over the weekend. On Monday, a 0-0 draw between Scotland and Highlanders. Are you sort of surprised by this result, Simba?
Not at all. When you look at it, I thought that Highlanders really played well in this game. Of all the games that they've drawn so far this season, this will point like a win. And if you just saw what happened in that game that they played against Dynamo's 2-2 draw, and the Dynamo's executive went on to give their players winning bonuses. And I think that Highlanders executive should also give some winning bonuses to their players because for me, they really played well. And, they never showed that fear that they were playing against the champions, or they're coming from a background where they had a series of 5 draws. And even the positional changes that were done by their coach, Benjani Marwaru. Yes, we have known Kudamaj for so many years playing as an attacking winger, but then they rewinded time to the time that he was still at Bandu Rovers Juniors. He was playing as a left back, and he did very well, because if you look at Scotland, most of their goals had come through the right channel, Moses Chidolo being the orchestrator of most of those goals. But in this instance, in this game, he couldn't move forward because of Kudama Hachi, and also the midfield, Highlanders midfield, was really compact. And you look at, there were some occasion that they could have got some goals with a bit of composure and luck as well. And, the way that they really played, for me, they really convinced me. And when you look at that, you just say, yes, 6 draws in a row, but should they start winning? where are they going to end? Because you look at that team, for me, Highlanders is not just a pushover team. They've got players that I think are really doing well. Look at Ransom Pawari. Last season he was at Manica Diamonds. He didn't get to play much, but look at the leadership qualities that he is showing at Highlanders, the same way that he did when he was at FC Platinum, keeping them to the last league title. So the same thing that we are seeing right now in that Highlanders team. So for me, they convinced me.
You know, Esrom, we're only 6 days into the season, but 6 draws in a row. Should teams, players, fans, should they start to worry when a team is drawing 6 games in a row?
Not really. Yesterday I also witnessed the second half of the game. I thought Kuda Kwashe Mahash was the man of the match for me. At some point I said, listen, did Benji change him in the first half or second half? But I'm hearing him, he's saying I think he started as a left back. I think it was absolutely amazing. He was solid, you know, because for someone always who has played, even in South Africa as well, he's played for Golden Arrows and also Orlando Pirates as a winger. But yesterday he played absolutely well. There's something about this team, Highlanders. I spoke to Benji the day before they played to say, if he's not creating chances, he should be worried. But it's a team that has been drawing for I think past 6 games. But they are creating chances. I think they just need to score one. I think all the things will open up. And yesterday, I think the game was good. But I thought it was a game of 2 halves in a way. I think last 20 minutes, also Scotland started piling pressure on Highlanders. But it was a good game of football that I watched yesterday. Yeah.
You know, Simba, in your opinion, why do you think Highlanders are struggling to convert these chances into wins? Because they've gone 6 games on a draw.
I think it's just the weight of expectations, nothing more. I think people are expecting a lot. Remember the way that Banyana came in after the exit of Thabo Senong. So many people had so many expectations. But, you know, these things do really happen in football that, you know, when the season starts, you need the team to gel together. Look at the people that are starting in that team right now and how many were there last season. So I think, you know, a new coach also coming in, the philosophy that he wants the players to come to follow. But when you look at it, you know, when you're really sober, when you want to look at it from a football perspective, you'd say that there is nothing really amiss, because when you get to score in the first game against Bulawayo Chiefs and then the second game against Dynamo scored 2 goals, of course they had gone to have those goalless draws. But again, when you look at their defense, it's solid. Reward Musa also had many clean sheets. And then you got Aaron Ngwenya coming in now, many clean sheets. Look at their defense. It's so compact. So for me, I don't think it's that time that Highlanders fans should be raising those alarm bells. It's time that you rally behind the team, you rally behind the coach, because, you know, once they start winning, I think, you know, they are on 6 points, and the team on number 1 is on 15 points, a difference of 9 games. With this 3-point system in football, you win 2 consecutive games. Look at Cape United. They dropped points. They lost to Ngezi Platinum when people least expected it. And then that gap, you know, you can cover it.
At least after yesterday's game, the Bosso fans treated that goalless draw as if it was a win, so they were at least very happy. But now, looking at the table, Highlanders dropped further down to the mid-table, but Caps and Dynamos back up to the top, with Caps in first and Dynamos in second. So for you, Esrom, if you compare, you know, the Cap season and the Dynamo season to last year, they're now both at the top. So some of the giants of Zimbabwe football are back at the top. What do you think about that? Is it much better?
You've said it yourself, giants. You know, in a league we need Capes, we need Highlanders, we need Dynamos to be there, and I think. Highlanders have played Champions League. They've gone far. I remember whilst I was still young, they played against Gomahia at some point of Cameroon. I think Dynamos went all the way. So you need those kind of teams to come in to make the league very competitive. You can't have all the time 1 or 2 race a championship, but let's have 8, let's have 10, and then the team compete. I think this thing of having so many teams to compete for the league, it will also help the national team.
That's so true. And Amanda, if you make comparisons to the South African League, the Betway Premiership, it's always normally been, you know, the big giants been Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, but in recent years, Mamelodi Sundowns have come into the equation.
Sundowns.
Yeah. Do you do you think it's healthy for football when new competitive teams come up to the table, or do you prefer the normal giants staying on top?
No, it's super healthy. I think also just to bring in that competitive spirit to the league, I think the gents are touching on that. And I mean, if it is that there are teams who are leading 10 points, and that's Sundowns who have just made it such a norm that they win the league with so many more games to go and so many points in terms of difference. We used to accustomed to a Kaizer Chiefs dominating the league, and things have changed, and we're still hoping that Orlando Pirates, who dominate cup competitions, can also still, grab their hands on the league. So it's quite competitive now in South Africa, and I think the comparisons with your Dynamos and your Scotlands, it's quite good. I mean, you guys are chatting about drawing 6 games consecutively in a row, and so many dynamics come to it. But for South Africans, I think we'll be pressing panic buttons by now, because the standard is just, or the expectation. You have to rise to the expectation. But it's good to see you. AmaZulu's now top 8. You look at it. AmaZulu, there's a TS Galaxy, there's a Skukune, and it's all about investment. I think it's always just about resources, and once teams get their hands on resources, then the competition looks a lot much better.
Okay. So you're all for change and giants being tested and being competitive?
Yeah, you have to stretch them and see their capacity. And I mean, Sundowns have been dominating with the checkbook is concerned. But your likes of Orlando Pirates, there's youth where they still believe so much in really tapping into their youth structures and promoting them. Sundowns over the years have finally adopted the same concept, but we're just so accustomed to bringing in these big names to really try and grapple for the league. So it's quite interesting to see other teams in the top 8 as well, just dabbling and tapping into the development, but also the resources. Teams are getting much more sponsors, and that totally changes the game.
Well, let us know in the comments your opinion whether or not you're happy with Caps and Dynamos being back at the summit of the Castle Premier Soccer League table. So as I already said, there was a very busy weekend over the Easter fixtures, match day 5 and 6 all happening within the space of 5 days. So when you do our team of the week, it's going to combine both of those match days into one. So starting in the gates, it's Manfred Okoye from FC Platinum. Very good game, solid in the gate and kept a clean sheet. In the defensive position, it's Nixon Nyasulu from FC Platinum. Great in defense. He returns to the team of the week. Andrew Mbeba from Highlanders once again proves he is very crucial for the Bosso if they want to stay and survive. He was crucial in that goalless draw against Scotland. And also Lincoln Mangaira from Chickenin. He scored the winning goal for Chickenin and put in a great shift. Into the midfield, Abubakar Moffat from Scotland. He worked hard and he applied so much pressure towards the final 10 minutes against the Highlanders. No goals from him, but again showing his class and expertise. Richard Hachiro from Caps United. He worked well and he was very impressive in the midfield. Aaron Zeka from a Triangle brace in a match day 5, which got Triangle's first win in their season. Much needed win for them. And then into the forwards, Wilfred Madzungu from Hard Rock, also a brace in match day 5. Arthur Banda from Moors, a little bit of a slow start to the season, but it seems he may be finding some form as he scored a brace in their match. And then Emmanuel Dogby, the Ghanaian man from FC Platinum, he is also now in our team of the week, and he scored his first goal in a much-needed win for FC Platinum. And then rounding off the team of the week, Alan Mukombedzi from Caps United, super sub, scoring essentially off his first touch. So that is our team of the week from Fanzone. Remember, you are more than welcome to agree or disagree. Let us know in the comments. Simba, were there any players that stood out to you from the PSL over the weekend, or maybe players who were left off the team of the week?
I don't really think so. Of course, it's really debatable when it comes to the outstanding players. But for me, I thought that Kudama Hachi really played well in that left back position for Highlanders. Very outstanding. I thought that he made the difference between Highlanders losing that game and Scotland failing to win that game.
Yes. And with that, our player of the week also will be Arthur Banda from Moors. It was a tough decision, but we decided that he would be our player of the week. So with lots of predictions going on over the weekend, it means that there also are some changes to our predictor leaderboard in the top 10. The top 3 stay the same. Alder Given on 342. He stretches his lead out at the front. GK Official on 330 points. And in third, Home Contractors on 322. So a couple of points separating the top 3. But Steve Vickers, one of our presenters, he's come up 3 places into 4th. And the biggest change is probably at Irvin Avenchi at number 17. He's come in 15 places up. So Simba, there was quite a number of predictions which were quite hard for you. What was one of the matches over the weekend which you would not have been able to predict?
I think if I was to predict, I was going to predict correctly the Dynamo Simba Bora matchup, because if you look last season, Dynamo in the first 6 games of the season, they all had 1 win, which was against Simba Bora. And they played Simba Bora in the Castle Challenge Cup, and they won that game. And then the league, they also won that game. And I just looked at the team that was probably going to be the first team to score and beat Simba Bora this season, and it was Dynamos.
Dynamos, yeah. The game I struggled to predict was that goalless draw between Scotland and Highlanders. I would have thought there would have been at least one goal between either side, but the goalless draw. So frustrated, I dropped some points there, but it's the way the predicting goes. Guys, if you want to get predicting, go to fanzone.co.zw, sign yourself up if you have not signed up before, but otherwise the match day 7 predictions are open. We also want to take this time to thank our sponsor, Suzuki CFAO, who have come on board for another year. Last year, they were in charge of donating and sponsoring the first place prizes, which was Suzuki Espresso and a Suzuki Eco van. This year around, they've donated once again a Suzuki Eco and a Suzuki Carry. So if you want to make sure you want to enjoy predicting and try and win the first place, you got to beat Alder Given there. He is currently at the top, but if you want to get predicting, that is who to beat, and maybe one day you can win one of those prizes. So thank you to Suzuki CFAO. Now Simba, there was so much football going on over the weekend, not just the PSL, but also Division 1. A lot of the leagues now, everyone in full swing. It's over to you for the Division 1 roundup.
Yeah, the excitement is not back in the lower divisions, and one exciting was the Gwanda Derby. They call it the El Jahunda. Is it also copying from the El Clasico? But it was really interesting. Super Strikers in Gwanda Pirates, though, that was the main match in the Central Region Soccer League. It ended goalless, but they drew crowds that were better than most of the PSO clubs. So a really big shout out to Gwanda Pirates and the Super Strikers, Pilandaba, flew to the rafters. And then also have Kwekwe United. They are also in that league, in the Central Region Soccer League. So for me, they are the firm favorites to win that title. So much experience in that team. The likes of Patson Jaure, Ian Nyoni, these are former PSO players. They also have Valentin Kadonzo, former Dynamos, Nigel Mpinduki, former captain of Shesham, and the coach, that is the Tendech Kunis, also won the title before 2 times in that region. And you also have other teams like Chapungu. They started well. They won 2-0 away to Vembe Stars Monday, and going to be really interesting in the Central Region Soccer League. And then competition again in the Northern Region. You also have 3 teams that haven't tasted defeat so far. Former champions Harare City, they now have a Trainube, a former Highlanders coach, who is now their coach at the moment, and they've won the last 2 games. They still have Framan Kutsanzira, a former Highlanders player within their ranks, and I'm sure Esrom knows about that player as well. And there is also Chekutu Pirates. They've got the reigning coach of the year in the Northern Region Soccer League, Poch Malizeni. He just left Agama, won 2 games so far. And Jumbo Giants, a team that was popular back in the days in the 90s. They are now back in the league, and they've also won 2 games. They still have the Black Rhinos, a former giant or a giant in that league as well. And people are still looking to Willard Katsande, him having his first win. Rangers, so 2 games, goalless draws. And probably the game that is going to play on Wednesday, they are going to Centenary to play against Zambezi GNC, and probably is going to get his first win in that game. And then the Southern Region, Black Rock, they are topping 2 wins in 2 games. And there's also Wange, perennial campaigners and fan favorites. And then there's Kai United. The past 2 seasons they've played well. And they are also one of the teams to look forward to, expensively assembled, quite also in terms of experience. Kevin Madzonge, former Warriors player in that squad. And they also have one Balotelli, Clopas Dube, also in that team. So, yeah, in the southern region, I tip Black Rock, Kai United and Wange to go for the title. But good news, yesterday, great Zimbabwe Saints are back. Of course, they're still struggling to get a win, but they are back in that league. And this year, so much competition again in the Eastern region. New team, AVM Stars, African Mineral Ventures. Yeah, they have coach who has also won the title, but in the northern region, Clifton Kadurira. But in terms of experienced players, yeah, they have Devon Chaffa. He's decorated 7 titles in the Premier League, 1 title in the Division 1 League. Is in that team. There is also Blessing Sarpinda, formerly with Capes United, is also there. So much experience in that team. They've won all their games so far. Then there is former PSO side Greenfield. They've won 3 games so far. Again, so much experience in that team. The likes of Ayanda Ngube, who was top goal scoring with Shesham. They also have Keith Madera, who was with Dynamos. And they are good. Blessing Sawondo, who won the title with Hard Rock last year. And there is also Yada, again, former PSO side. And Alan Gadzikwa still going strong. I think he's around 38 now. And there is Maraba, who is also there. He has seen so many battles, good from Kambi. And so much experience from them. So in the Eastern region, I think it's going to be competition from Yada, the former PSO side. There's also Bigita Minerals. There's Greenfield and African Mineral Ventures, 4 teams that I tip to fight for the title in that region.
Yes, so much going on in Division 1. Remember, there are 4 places for promotion, 1 for each league, so always exciting to keep watch. Esrom, looks like you are supporting a team there in the southern region. I saw a fist bump going on. What's your relation there?
I think I'm a product of Zimbabwe Saints. When I heard Zimbabwe Saints is back, I started at Zimbabwe Saints Juniors before I moved to Amazulu Juniors that was taken by Demalo Paper by then. So when I heard Zimbabwe Saints, I said, this is my team, team. And as long they are back, I think they just need to put proper structures, sign good players. I think Zimbabwe is also one of the biggest team that we had in Bulawayo. You always cherish. I will tell you, Zimbabwe Saints versus Highlanders, the stadium will be packed full. So when I heard Zimbabwe Saints, I said, here we go again now. So, yeah.
There we go again, okay.
Yes.
Well, we'll stay tuned for the Division 1 updates on the Fanzone WhatsApp channel, but also on our Facebook pages. Now, Amanda, you are one of the ambassador representatives for the CAF African Schools Football Tournament and Championship. For those who don't know what it is, explain what this tournament is.
Well, CAF African Schools Championships, like I said, is probably one of the biggest platforms where schools competition is concerned. For our under 15 boys and under 15 girls, 3 million participants up to so far, 49 countries that have participated, and I think it's not only just a platform to unearth, Africans' talent, but we also really try to empower these young boys and girls via education, equipping them with skill development, and just really trying to help them navigate career pathways within football. So it's not only just on the field, but a holistical approach. And for young journalists, we also have programs outside, the 4 lines. There's young journalists or young leaders, young reporters. I think it's just a platform to really build the young ones. And I've just been so privileged to be part of it. And I guess working with Esrom this time around in the Zimbabwe edition, we also look at, like he says, infrastructure. It's always so important that the mission for CAF is not only to just have the tournaments, but to make sure that infrastructure is much more suitable and it really complements the talent that is on display. So that is our platform for African schools. We really want to encourage the young boys and girls to really take up these opportunities. Like we said,
Yeah.
we sit here. I've never actually played for under 15s, under 17s, or under 20s in terms of national teams. I went straight to the national senior women's national team. So I kind of missed out on so many other soft skills where development is concerned. And hence I say it's such a privilege for these group of players who participate in CAF African schools to have this rare opportunity. I mean, Zimbabwe is probably so huge, and there's only about how many girls, 23, that are here representing their country, being set through their paces in terms of the professionalism, singing the national anthem, how to conduct yourself, even just the pressure of knowing that you're representing millions of people. I think it just sets them up so well for what is ahead, and that is an AFCON, that is a women's AFCON, a World Cup, or even Olympic Games. So I think it's such a big opportunity, and thanks to CAF, the Mutsipe Foundation as well, for pumping in the money. Hey, guys, women's football, there's no money. To see these young boys and girls walking away, I mean, first prize about 300 USD. 300,000 USDs. I've never seen that kind of money. So that also just encourages the teachers as well to make sure that they invest, properly in making sure that these kids, because they're still at school, we need to make sure that the money is used in the right way, but also the teachers in schools, they need to be empowered, whether it's a CAFD license to coach, just to understand what it is to take a kid out of the classroom and into, to the football pitch. So I think for us as legends, it's such an opportunity, like a great honor to be part of the CAF African schools.
Yeah. And for you, Esrom, it's been now being hosted in Zim, the said tournament. How does it feel for you to come back and see Zim hosting such a huge tournament?
Sure, I think I felt like, how many years ago? 25 years ago, when I was being called at national team. That's how I felt about this tournament. And coming back, meeting a lot of legends. It's not only I and Amanda here. Amanda just said something that is more or less to me when he says he never played for the youth national team. I also did not play. So I went straight national team at 21 years old. But I can only say this is a platform that you can do it. If you put your mind to it. I think I'm a product of Peter and Love tournament. I only played that tournament when I was at Tamazulu. Nana Joseph Kabwe, Joseph Kabwe, Taurai Makukuto, all these guys who went on to grace, the PSL. But we need to start it young. For me, the highlight of this CAF Schools tournament, I've said it to say these kids already they're winners. And we were also doing the workshop with the kids. What is more important was to see kids writing notes, to say, listen, when the instructors were teaching, they were also writing notes. I think it's something that we also we did not go through in terms of being taught how to handle the media, how to do on a social media. We were speaking about social media the other day. Social media is here to stay. It's either it can kill you or break you. But CAF is providing everything. So it is a wonderful initiative as well to say from CAF president and also the board, thank you for allowing this tournament to come to Zimbabwe in Harare.
Yeah. Amanda, you mentioned how beneficial this tournament's going to be and how it's going to be inspiration. How did you feel when you were told, hey, we want you to come be, ambassador for these young kids and be inspiration and lead them and guide them?
I mean, I never would have thought that a girl like me who started out in Makai in the rural areas of Harding would then be approached to be an ambassador. I think it's a teaching point in terms of consistency, application as well in terms of your craft. And obviously when you are asked to be an ambassador, it just completes the whole storyline that there's still life after football. But to get there, there's certain things that you have to do. So for me, it was just one of those things where I welcomed with open hands because I really love grassroots development. I also just really want to give back to the opportunities I didn't get, but also to highlight how much of a stepping stone, how much of a big platform this is, and that it's literally a doorway to many other opportunities. I wouldn't be a CAF ambassador if it is that I didn't start out on the platforms of football. So there is consistency for you to get recognized and to be at that place. But more than anything, just to be close to the kids, sharing the stories, smiles everywhere. they always want to know, how did you get into it? So being at close proximity with the boys and girls, and this is the thing, nobody cares about who you are, because these are young kids that probably never saw you play. But how you show up for them and how you represent yourself in front of them, they'll never forget you.
Never forget. Okay.
Yeah.
And for you, Esrom,
Yeah.
this is obviously a tournament where structures being placed. What are you thinking? You've watched some of the Zimbabwean games, I'm assuming. What are you thinking of some of the talent there? Are you impressed with what you're seeing?
We've got a number 9 there. I didn't take his name.
It has to be a number 9.
I think he scored 2 goals now for the boys. I think brilliant boy. Both fit, good technique. Unfortunately, we've done, I think, 2 draws now. I've also watched the ladies. I was supporting a lot, screaming a lot yesterday. But I think what is more important, it's whatever happens, whether we go through or we are knocked out, where from now? Are we going to keep that group together and try to see where we can improve, where we went wrong? I think that's the most important thing. The challenge that we have most of the time in Africa, it's when we play this kind of tournament, we go our way and then everything disappears. So like I said, structures have to be put together to say, listen, boys and girls, we are at this. In the next edition, of course, we will have under 17s, we will have under 20s, but now we start looking back to say, in 2 years or 3 years' time, where are these boys? And like I said, to improve, I think it will be very, very, very important for us to keep this core of the group that I saw and also try to plug in and see where we can improve the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for you, on your end, Amanda, how have you found some of the South African sides to be? Are you impressed?
Well, I mean, South Africa, last year in Ghana, actually, we came out with the bronze. And therefore, the girls, actually in the girls division, we came out the bronze. But this time around, we couldn't qualify, which I think for me, it raises so many eyebrows, because we are always just one of those teams where people want to see in competitions. It's also important for South Africa to be participating in these sort of group divisions, because for any players like myself who probably will miss being under the association, this, I think, from the school's perspective, gives them an opportunity. It's a stepping stone to elevate to the other structures of either the SAFA structures, where they get called up into the under-17s and under-20s. There's also like your university football. I think I came through university football structures to get a platform to the senior national team. So it's always just a stepping stone. And I think, like Esrom says, we really have to keep the consistency in making sure that we take care of these groups, because once this tournament is done, it's really true, we forget about them. And then we start looking for, other teams, whereas we can really start building. So for South Africa as well, maybe it's good for us to really take a break for now and then kind of re-strategize and come back, because we were defending champions and we went to bronze medalist, and now there's no show for South Africa. So I think it's a loud message enough that other countries are developing, they're moving much more faster, and maybe we just need to really catch up with consistency.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit disappointing from the South African side.
Yeah.
Which team have you enjoyed watching at this tournament? Who's wowed you as a team?
Oh, is this intimidation? I think Ghana from the girls division has been really exceptional. The composure, the ability at under 15 to be so tactically disciplined. You guys were talking about drawing those games. You need the composure to finish the goals. You could see those girls when they play. Zimbabwe as well, really impressive. Zambia, the athleticism.
Yeah.
Because at this stage of the competition, it's not really tactical. You look at certain things, how teams quickly adapt, how they take instructions from the coaches, the bounce back ability after losing a game. They're still kids, they cry, but how do you get them to come back? So I think there's just so many other aspects apart from who's probably the tournament favorite. But there's other aspects where you can really try and acknowledge that these girls and boys are really growing at a pace we'd like.
Okay, so I have to ask, I know this will be a question for you. So yes, the junior structures in South Africa at the moment aren't doing as well as you'd like, but the senior structures have been going pretty well. A 10-year project for Bafana under Hugo Bruce. They've qualified for the World Cup now, Bafana South Africa. What are your hopes, expectations? How do you think they'll do in the World Cup as they prepare in June?
I hope so, definitely, to make it out of the group. We have to make it out of the group, and I don't know how they got it right that we're playing Mexico again in our opener. And I guess everyone back home is really talking about who's going to actually have the nerve to hold their nerve to get that crucial goal. We all remember Shabalala to date. And once again, it's almost like deja vu. So your Relemo Fugeng, the youngsters that everybody's talking about, your Polis, your Moremis, this is the opportune moment, your Fosters. This is the moment now to really step up. You're talking about 10-year plan. This is a generation that really have been putting the building blocks. Now it's really time to execute that. And I'm hoping that really we make it out of the group stages.
And facing Mexico in the first game again.
Exactly. It's like deja vu. And I hope we can really draw some inspiration from 2010. I mean, the crowds. And we know that people are expecting South Africa to really rise to the occasion. So hence I say we're going to certainly need a lot of character. We're going to need names to really step up and grab the opportunity. I mean, the whole world is watching. I mean, it's probably going to be one of the most controversial World Cups. Just leading to it there's already so much talk. So why not just, set the stage alight and capture the moment?
I think, sorry to come in, I think Amanda, you spoke about the 10-year plan. I remember very well when I came here in Zimbabwe, I was watching, I think it was under 23, if I'm not mistaken, under 23 or under 20. Yabo Tebuko, Aubrey, Sipombulo was there, Grand Magaman. And if you were to look at the squad now, currently the South African squad, those are the players that Amanda says they built the blocks and other stuff. So what I was saying earlier on, how do you keep this group moving forward?
And just talking about that, Esrom, so much excitement when people started seeing you here in Zim. I remember meeting you in Kwekwe, and at the same time I was also seeing Willard Katsande frequenting home, and then Peter Love, the announcement that is the Scotland team manager now. And later, Esrom Nyandoro is now with the Warriors. And this excitement people that they have, that the legends are coming back home, they're being involved. And just what are you bringing, with this that you're bringing in back home as the former players coming back home?
Wow, I'm happy for Peter. I'm happy for Willard. Willard, I think it's one hell of a guy. And he works so hard, and I think he's a good friend of mine. And you could see with his training plans, because I see on the social medias to say he wants to be the best one. And I also like to say wish him all the very best of luck. And of course, when the elders are calling you, you have to answer that call. I was called, I answered the call. So am I. So,
and just tell us about the new role that you have now with the Warriors.
Yeah, I'm more closer with the players. As a team manager, I don't want to do more admin, but I'm more closer with the players, just to encourage the boys to say, listen, this is an opportunity that you've got. I remember I was just talking to one of the guys. I think to a certain group, there were 5 or 6 who was just sitting in Botswana and Gaborone, and we were like saying, listen, the most important thing, when you receive this kind of a call-up, it does not end there. You gotta play for your next call-up if you're given a chance. Sometimes we tend to, because you're being called regular once, twice, because there are so many players here in Zim, you can go who wants to be in your position. But if you think that you are a regular, you come in here, then that's your mistake. So I've got this narrative that I always use with my kids. At Sundowns, when I was still playing, if you train once, that means I train twice. And if Sundowns trains twice, that means Esrom Nyandoro trains 3 times. So I said it to the players, already psychological, I'm ahead of my teammates, because I'm like saying, but I don't think it's fit. Hey, today I woke up, I did 10 kilometers. Before I came to training, that means I'm ahead of this. So that's the kind of talk that I want to have with the national team players. And I know there are some players who are coming from overseas and locally as well to say, listen, call-up does not mean that you're guaranteed. There's someone who wants to be in a position.
And
definitely.
then,
In the beginning, Esrom, Coach Maranika was caused a bit of a stir on social media for ruling with an iron fist, and some of the players weren't really liking that. So on that sort of note, what do you think of the head coach, Marinique? You know, we've done well in the AFCON, and what do you think of him so far?
It doesn't matter how I think. Me
Or at least, what do you
personally.
think about the results he's done with the Warriors?
Oh, okay. I think
Yeah.
the results are there.
Yeah.
To be quite honestly, and I think the seniors on top there, they've also say, listen, we are supporting you. I personally, I'm also coming in supporting the coach, the staff behind, because what is more important in football is not only the team, but it's also the supporting staff that is behind, the doctors, the physios, you know, the fitness trainers, your Esrom that are there, and whoever is there to support the coach, and so that the team can also produce results. I think that is what is very, very key, and that's what we want to come in and also provide, so that we can enjoy this beautiful game going forward. And like you said, the results are there, and he has been winning. So what is it that we want? We want to win.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and Esrom, your first assignment, you spoke about, the way that you view life, the discipline, everything, and then before the final, you had one of the senior players, teenager, be being suspended. But just take us through what happened, or even in terms of, discipline within the camp, how crucial it is for the national team and the players.
Yes, I'm drinking water for this question. I'm drinking water for this question. Good question, but I think what is more important is I think the matter was handled professional. At the end of the day, there were a lot of consultation and a lot of decision that came in, and the decision came in putting all our minds together. And I think the players know that they also sign a code of conduct. So I can only say to you, in simple way, I think this matter was dealt professional.
Okay. And what about for you, Amanda? When you went on tour, camps, tournaments, were there also strict rules on the code of conduct?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually feel like we should have been given a little bit more freedom. Because, I mean, we traveled for so many years, and you end up just seeing the walls of the hotel. You don't get to experience the culture, you don't get to experience people. And as soon as we finally got a coach that gave us the freedom, we were shell-shocked. What do you mean we could go and grab a drink at the bar? Like, just to ease your tension. What do you mean we can take a walk outside, like by ourselves? And so I think in as much as there are code of conduct and the rules, we have to abide by them. We're professionals, we know what we're here for, and we know exactly what's at stake if you don't adhere to that. But at the same time, you travel because you want to meet people, you want to challenge your mind, you want to experience different countries. So I think there is a working relation, but for me, I feel like if I could go back, that would be the only thing, just to get a little bit more leeway, just to experience people and the culture in different countries.
Yeah, and Esrom, I was talking about happy seeing you back home, and many people would also want to know about, you had so many years at Mamelodi Sundowns. Is that chapter closed now?
22 years at Sundowns.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, and I played for almost 11 years. I'm still working for Sundowns.
Oh,
Yeah, as a youth coach.
okay.
Of course, being given the big title, because the structures that we have at Sundowns, I work with Mark Mayambela. I also have a special program that I have that we run for almost 3 days, which is a midfield specialist. So I specialize on all division when it comes to midfielders. So I'm still at Sundowns.
And then just taking you back, Amanda was talking about, if given a chance, at a young age.
Yeah.
But when you went to Sundowns, you quickly rose to be one of the senior players and then the captain. How you managed to go in there, and at that time the checkbook was being opened at Mamelodi Sundowns. A number of quality players were coming in, but being given that responsibility or working your way up to get that responsibility and becoming the captain.
It was tough. I think you mentioned discipline. Discipline for me was key. I think I grew up with strict parents. At some point, they did not want me to play football. So I would go in the morning to go and play football. When I come back, my legs are dusty. I have to sneak at the kitchen to try wash to say, no, I was not but they will eventually catch me. But for me, I think discipline was very, very key. And like I told you, the mentality that I had of having an extra session than anyone psychological, it tells you that, listen, I'm ahead of somebody. But I think just to summarize everything, I think there were people who paved the way for us. I think Banyana played in South Africa before he went to France. You've got your Tinashe Nongomasha, one of the best players. They still talk about him in Kaizer Chiefs. I think it won previously the player of the year. Of course, Esrom goes in to say, but I want to be like this. Elbert Dina, Alois Bonjira. You can mention, I believe that I was lucky just because I could see what these other guys have done. And you also want to idolize to say, listen, I want to reach there. So I think, make no mistake about it, I think discipline was, one of the, I'm disciplined, eh?
Yeah.
Very disciplined. And then just take us through. You broke into the Warrior squad at 21?
21 years old.
Yes, and you're still at Amazulu.
Yeah.
And just take us through how it was for you breaking into the team. And during that time, I think it was Peter Love, Kaitano Timbo, Adam Love.
I trained with those guys. It was not easy, to be quite honest. I think my first call-up, I was 19 years old. We used to have Kosafa. Kosafa was the Kosafa at that time. Yeah. And I was 18. I could come and train. That time it was Mishek, the late Mishek Marimo, may his soul rest in peace. He'll call me and say, Esrom, I want you to learn from these guys. And then you'll find I'm in the dressing room or changing, going to training with the game twins. I'm like saying, these guys, I watch them. Your Peter and Love, they will come late. Peter and Love used to land at 12, drive straight to the stadium, play Kosafa, scores 2 goals and go back to England. And I was like saying, this is possible, And eventually, at 21, I made my debut, and we won against Burkina Faso. The guy who scored the goal was one of the best players, one of the best midfielders that came from Cape United, the late Blessing Makonik. Yogo. Oh, my God. He was. That guy used to make the ball talk. So, and I won man of the match. And, in South, you get a check, Yeah. Me, I got those 24 cases of beer, and I don't drink, So I had to give it to the guys, to the rest of the guys, and I said, guys, give, and Yogo was like saying, Tongi, how mudore, give us this one. So I just gave them. So I think it was beautiful, like 21 and against Burkina Faso at Rufaro.
And another beautiful thing, we can't go without talking about that goal that he scored against Cameroon at Africa Cup of Nations.
Yeah. How many years now? More than 20 years.
Yeah.
And when I watch the goal, it still gives me goosebumps. And I think it's one of those that I've also put behind the net with power and precision. I've scored against TP Mazembe. I've scored a lot of against Supersport, Marisburg, but that one, it's people know me as that Boraregu Tunisia. They don't call me Esrom. That Boraregu Tunisia. So, I just it makes you emotional, So it was a beautiful goal.
And putting it, you in a tight corner. We have had legends and they talk about the best, national teams. Would you say yours was the best, or the ones that came after you, or the ones before you?
Sure. For me, you will never compare the generation. That is me. I've always said it's always difficult to compare these generations. Yeah. They were unique in their own generation. You also hate our generation and this one. But a lot of people always talk about the Fabish Dream Team. And I grew up watching the Fabish Dream Team. And when Fabish Dream Team was playing, everything stops, you know. So it's difficult to compare the generation and generation, but I thought they were unique in their own way. We were also unique in our own way, and this generation is also unique in their own way.
Mm-hmm. And so for you, Amanda, before you go off to back to the African School Champs, what are your final words to any of the South African girls or boys under 15 side who want to make the national team? What are your words of encouragement to them?
Well, I mean, Esrom touches on something so important, and I don't know how else to teach it. I mean, it's discipline, you know, consistency. At 15 years old, you're asking about consistency and discipline, but nothing that you ever want comes easy. You have to work hard for it. And I think we all speak about role models. Find someone that you totally admire. Try and emulate certain positive things that you can find in that person. I used to watch and be like, damn, at midfield, I wish one day I can strike a ball with so much power. But I didn't have equal power as Esrom. But there were certain things that I watched and I followed. I'm like, sheesh, this team, the precision, the accuracy. Ronaldinho, I can't do all of those tricks, but there are certain elements that I would have wanted. A Portia Modise, dribbling wizard, certain aspects that I take. You know, I'm not as quick as a Veronica Pewa on the wing, but certain aspects that you'll take. So for the boys and girls under 15, try and find something good in someone that you really admire and then try and emulate that.
Well, Esrom and Amanda, thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time. I had a
Sis.
great time in the studio with you. We have had a great time in the studio with you guys, and good luck at the tournament. More photos, smiles, more shaking hands. You're going to have short cheekbones by the end of the week.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
your
much,
time.
guys. Thank you.
We are heading to Beyond the Pitch, where we'll be talking to Winston Nyanhete, who is the head coach of the Zimbabwe Karate Federation. Yes, so joining us today for Beyond the Pitch, it is Winston Nyanhete, who is the head coach of the Karate Zimbabwe Federation. So thank you, Winston, again for coming into the studio. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here. So we recently hosted the Karate One Youth League Africa Games. How did that go? Were you impressed? Give us your overall view of the tournament.
Okay. Well, this is the Karate One Youth League. It's a world event, so it went well. You know, by all measures, you know, we were all excited that it was here in Zimbabwe. You know, we had 201 athletes, 35 countries,
Yeah.
and you know, we walked away with 3 silver medals, 8 bronze medals to make a total of 11. So, as the head coach, I was very impressed. You know,
Yeah.
most of our athletes never really competed at this level. So for them to step up to the plate and perform as they did, you know, it was very encouraging. You know, my heart bleeds for those who didn't medal. You know, we were so close to so many medals, like so many medals. You know, you've got your young athletes who came out 5th, who came out, you know. So, yeah, a lot of hard work went into it. And, you know, all our junior athletes performed to my satisfaction.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And how did Zimbabwe end up hosting such a prestigious karate tournament?
Oh yes, I think it's got more to do with our karate president, Mr. Joru Gwete. You know, he did a lot of persuade, you know, the World Karate Federation to give us an opportunity to host this event. This is your event that is usually in Europe mostly. You know, I know it goes across the world, but it was never in Africa. You know, the next one is in Philippines. So, yeah, it's a very big achievement on the admin side, and you know, also being thankful on the technical side, our athletes did us proud.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we always speak about like how important it is for exposure, and so how important is maybe to try and do as many of these tournaments as possible. You know that you said Philippines, it's a very far distance, but how important is it for your youngsters and your students to get this exposure and tournament?
It is very important, because exposure is what we need to get to the top.
Yeah.
Most of our athletes had never seen, how Egyptians compete, how your Americans compete. So the exposure goes a long way. It's very important, and not to mention this is a pathway to the Junior Olympics later in Dakar. So the exposure, especially us hosting, it's priceless, because now we know exactly what to expect and how to change the gear up to really push towards doing the same thing or performing better in the next event.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell us more about that pathway to the Junior Olympics. So you've had this tournament. What's the next step to get to the Junior Olympics?
Okay. Besides this karate one for the youth, what also is there is that your continental championships. So we've got the African Karate Championships, which are coming up in September. It's about 5 months away now. This will be in Algeria. So this is also an opportunity for our team to go and try out for the Olympics. If you get your gold medal, you stand a very good chance of making it into the Junior Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you've hosted the Africa Youth Games, but you also have started up your own sort of tournament, the Clash of the Titans, hosted at Convent. What was your inspiration to start such a tournament like that?
Oh, okay. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Now, I think karate is, like we spoke about exposure just now. A lot of people in school-going children don't get as much opportunity to compete in the sport that they love, because this has been taken as an external sport. So it's overshadowed by your soccer, your basketball, your athletic, the mainstream sports. So us coming up with this to say we want to do a schools competition was to encourage competition in schools, to say, okay, look, this is an event that someone can come and compete within a school setting. A lot of parents are really supportive when you're doing things in school, but external sports, they clash with other programs within the schools. There's a hockey tournament, and parents would say, look, a school event takes precedence, and so we also want to give exposure to that group of athletes who are saying, look, I do karate in school. I also want to be given merit for doing what I love. I want to get top honors. So this is a national event, which we also use as a national team selection for the juniors. Okay. So it caters for your grassroots. It caters for the experienced athletes. Everyone gets to come and rub shoulders with with the other people who are in school, people that they might look up to, or people who they think they need to be better than. This is a tournament that has attracted competition from Botswana and your Zambia. So it's a big event for schools. Yes.
Okay. So have you seen like a growth in participation and interest from parents outside? Have you seen that?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Just this past Clash of the Titans, which we hosted, a lot of athletes came through. We had athletes from Bulawayo, we had athletes from Marondera, all across the country. Everyone came, and you can even tell with the parents that drove far and wide to come and support their kids. This growth with over 180 athletes. We're just shy of 200 athletes who were competing. There's a lot of growth, and for me, a lot of coaches are putting in a lot of work, and karate is being accepted in more and more schools. So you get a lot of instructors who are going into these schools to put in the work, because of the recognition that karate is getting now.
Yeah. And how's that battle been against trying to get karate into school sports? Because in Zim it's predominantly your rugby, cricket, hockey, tennis. So has that been an uphill battle, easy, hard, or what's been What's your thoughts about that, Jim?
It's been a task. It's been a task. Some are fortunate. Some not so lucky. But we've got instructors who are willing to do this. I think it's just about following the channel. There's a channel to this. You really have to be vetted. You really have to be someone where parents are comfortable with you. The school officials allowing you to come in and hold classes, because first and foremost, karate is it's about discipline. So parents and the schools, they have to trust that you're bringing value to that. You don't have to be a shady character. So but karate is discipline. Most instructors are there. Unfortunately, some teach at their sports clubs, this, that. So schools sometimes, parents prefer, if there is no karate at the school, to send the kids to the sports clubs, to just say, look, go and learn something. But, like I said, Clash of the Titans, now it opens up those doors to say, look, you are at this school, and that school doesn't offer karate, but if you do karate somewhere else, you can come register under your school and compete and represent your school. Your awards will be presented at school for you as a member of the school.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're now preparing for Angola. You've just come off the back of 11 medals. What's your hopes, your anticipations as you prepare your team for Angola later this year?
Okay, Angola, we're going for the Region 5 Karate Championships. This is a much smaller tournament, but still, it's numbers, and you get to see some of the athletes who competed at the youth league. South Africa came, Botswana was here, Namibia was here. So, competing against them here on home soil also is a yardstick for this year to say, hey, how are we supposed to change it up so that when we go to Angola, we perform better than we did. This is a competition where we came third behind Angola and South Africa last year in Durban. So, Angola is hosting now. I think for them it's the first time. So they're going to bring in the numbers. For us, we'll take as many as we can. We're appealing for funding. It's never easy to go to these things. We've got a lot of talent. You've got your champions from last year. They want to repeat that. They want to keep winning so that they do their country proud. So yeah, Angola is in 37 days. We're training. We're preparing for that. Especially, there's nowhere else to go but up after having gone through what we went through here at the youth league. These young champions are ready to go. They're hungry for more. So we can't back down now. We really need to send a good, strong team so that those who didn't win medals are hungry for medals. Those who won medals, they want to do better than what they did. Yeah.
Okay. And Simba, I'm sure going to compete in Angola. That sounds very interesting, right here, Simba?
Yes, indeed, and I've really loved the discipline that comes with contact sport, particularly karate, and the regime that you put in terms of training. But instead, just looking at our sport, the issue of funding, how have you also been able to navigate it, particularly when you want to take more of these athletes outside the country?
We're still appealing for funding. For parents to really come in to assist, especially in the junior ranks, where, you want the kids to have exposure, So you get some are fortunate with well-wishers, and we don't really have a sponsor who's saying we are sponsoring the national team of karate. But, you've got people who might get lucky to say this corporate company is willing to sponsor one or two people like ABC, but mostly parents do the best they can to just make sure, we go. Some schools do support, they do their own fundraisers and whatnot. It's been an uphill battle. It's an old age problem that we are facing, So you'll find in the region alone, Botswana, gets a lot of support. Angola gets a lot of support. South Africans, they're in the same situation that we are in, but they do manage to send bigger numbers to these events. I've never been to an event where any other country has got more numbers than South Africa. Namibians, so it's not only our problem, it's a regional thing.
Okay, but how much of a letdown has it been for you in terms of where you want to take the sport to, and in terms of even the medal overall, when you are harvesting medals at international tournaments?
No, it's been a thorn in the back, because sometimes those talented athletes are left behind because they fall short of that funding. Like I said, South Africa brings in the numbers, so some categories we don't field people because they are not there. Funding has let us down. It's one of those things. Us coming third in Durban last year on the medals table was a big thing. But I strongly believe we could have gone further if some of the athletes that we left behind had managed to travel to this kind of competition.
Interesting. And so, for you, Winston, we've spoken about going to Angola. What were some of the things you learned from the most recent youth league games?
Okay. This was a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
Okay. What a lot of people might not know about karate is, just like any other sport, when you go to coach at any event, you need to go through, your coaching courses so that you know what you're doing. So for us here in Zimbabwe, it was a real eye-opener. The level of organization, everything. This competition was mostly starting at 9, except the first day when we started at 2:30. But the other 2 days when we were competing, the tournament was starting at 9. So as an accredited coach, my team needs to be there at 7:30. It's a rule. They're not going to look for you if you're late, because most people in local tournaments say, hey, the competition is starting at 8. Let me be there at 7:30. And you'll still be fine, and the competition will start, and people will be very accommodating. This is a high-level competition where you really have to be there on time. The call-up will start at 8. By 8:30, if the athlete is not there, they stand to be disqualified. Just putting everything together, just to say, we sharing ideas with the other coaches. We had a training session with the Scotland head coach, Chris Ewing. Real eye-opener. His daughter, he came here with just one athlete, his daughter. She came second in the juniors, she did well, and the kids were learning a lot from her in that training. Christian Gruner from the Netherlands, he did a training also with our national team, and you learn a lot. How do you guys prepare? What do you do when you come up to problems like funding, and how do you do when you're training? Weight issues, this, that. There's a lot of things that went on. We made good connections, good friends, that kind of thing. Right now, locally, we everything is put on paper. So you go and you say, I want to register for this competition. You do this, you're good to go. Yeah. Or for the youth league, everything was done prior. So you have to do things on sport data that you register athletes by such a date. It's a cutoff date. Everything is there on the thing. You're registered. You're good to go. Everyone is, when you're doing the draws, nothing is done manually. Everything is just So it was something we don't get to see every day. Of course, regionally we've come up to that, and continentally, but this was a higher, more specific kind of thing where technically it was just high up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, wishing you all the best for your training and getting your students ready. We know that you guys are going to do very well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Simba.
So, that brings us to our game time. Last week's question was, name the 2 goal scorers for the Warriors in their 3-0 victory over Botswana. The answer was Mongomele Shuma and Bill Antonio. Macaulay Bonnie did not count because that goal was counted as an own goal. So well done to our 2 winners. And this week's game time is, how many times has Ngezi Platinum beaten Caps United in a row? Remember, only answers submitted on the form on the Fanzone website count. Any comments on Facebook, Instagram, X, those do not count towards the draw. So head over to fanzone.co.zw, find the secret code that will be easy to find once you head into the article. And just one more time, how many times has Ngezi Platinum beaten CAF United in a row? Thank you for sitting in the Fanzone with us, Winston. We hope everything will continue to go smoothly for you, and we hope you get the funding that you need to take as many students as possible to Angola. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Okay, thank you.
If you have enjoyed this episode, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell us your favorite part of the episode. Head over to fanzone.co.zw. Get predicting for match day 7. Those predictions are open. But other than that, we'll see you guys in the next episode.